The Oval Office, March 2025. A meeting shrouded in tension. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy of Ukraine, weary from war, came seeking support. He found only conflict. President Donald Trump, known for his unpredictable nature, offered no comfort. Their exchange was heated, a storm of accusations and denials. Zelenskyy left empty-handed. His hopes for a united front against Russian aggression were dashed. The message was clear. Ukraine was on its own. Hours later, the unthinkable happened. Trump announced a freeze on all U.S. military aid to Ukraine. A lifeline severed. The decision sent shockwaves across the globe. It was a move that benefited only one man, Vladimir Putin. The world watched in disbelief. Was this a sign of things to come? The answer, it seemed, lay buried in the complex history between Trump and Putin, and in the untapped riches that lay beneath Ukraine's war-torn soil. The Kremlin, no doubt, celebrated Trump's decision. The aid freeze was a strategic victory for Putin, a sign that America's commitment to containing Russian expansion was waning. With U.S. support faltering, Ukraine became more vulnerable. The message to other former Soviet states was clear. Defiance against Moscow could prove costly. The aid itself, weapons, ammunition, intelligence, was vital to Ukraine's defense. But even more crucial was the symbolism. It represented a promise made by the West to stand by Ukraine in the face of aggression. Trump's decision shattered that promise. The timing was particularly suspect. It came just weeks after a controversial phone call between Trump and Putin, the contents of which remained shrouded in secrecy. The coincidence was too stark to ignore. Was this a quid pro quo? Had Trump, in effect, thrown Ukraine under the bus to appease the Russian bear? Trump's disdain for NATO was no secret. He had long criticized the alliance, calling it obsolete and complaining about the financial burden on the United States. He had repeatedly questioned the commitment of European allies, demanding they increase their defense spending. His criticism, however, ignored the historical context. NATO was formed in the aftermath of World War II to counter the Soviet threat. It had been the cornerstone of Western security for decades, providing a united front against Soviet aggression. After the fall of the Soviet Union, NATO had played a crucial role in stabilizing Eastern Europe, welcoming former Soviet republics into its fold. Trump's attacks on NATO undermined the alliance at a critical juncture. His rhetoric emboldened Putin, giving him the confidence to test the West's resolve. It also sowed discord among NATO members, weakening their collective response to Russian aggression. The relationship between Trump and Putin had long been a source of speculation and unease. Even before Trump's election in 2016, there were allegations of Russian interference in the U.S. election, with intelligence agencies pointing the finger at Putin. Trump's subsequent dismissal of these allegations and his repeated praise of Putin only fueled the fire. The 2022 phone call between the two leaders, coming just as Russia was massing troops on Ukraine's border, raised further alarm bells. The details of the conversation remain classified, but reports suggest that Trump made assurances to Putin that undermined Ukraine's sovereignty. The allegations of a Trump-Putin deal, while unproven, cast a long shadow over the current crisis. They raised troubling questions about Trump's loyalties and his willingness to prioritize personal gain over national security. Ukraine's strategic importance extends beyond its geopolitical position. Beneath its fertile plains lie vast reserves of natural resources, including titanium, lithium, and rare earth minerals, essential components for everything from smartphones to fighter jets. These resources, largely untapped, represent a potential goldmine, and they had not escaped the attention of Donald Trump. In the midst of the crisis, rumors began to surface of a proposed mineral deal between Trump and Putin. According to these reports, Trump had offered to pressure Ukraine into selling its mineral rights to U.S. companies at a discounted price. In return, Trump would lift sanctions on Russia and recognize its annexation of Crimea. The deal, if true, would be a betrayal of epic proportions. It would reward Putin for his aggression, legitimize his land grab, and leave Ukraine at the mercy of both Russia and the West. It would also turn a blind eye to the human cost of the conflict, sacrificing the lives and livelihoods of millions of Ukrainians for the sake of profit. The implications of Trump's proposed mineral deal are staggering. It would redraw the map of Europe, emboldening authoritarian regimes and undermining the international order. It would set a dangerous precedent, signaling to the world that might makes right and that territorial integrity is negotiable. For Ukraine, the deal would be a disaster. It would lose control of its own resources, becoming a vassal state to both Russia and the West. It would be forced to cede territory, sacrificing its industrial heartland and leaving millions of its citizens under Russian rule. And it would receive no guarantees of security, leaving it vulnerable to further aggression from Moscow. The deal, in essence, is a Faustian bargain. It offers the illusion of peace and stability in exchange for Ukraine's sovereignty and its future. It is a deal that should send chills down the spine of every freedom-loving nation. The world watches, holding its breath. Will Europe stand by and allow this travesty to occur? Or will it finally recognize the gravity of the situation and take decisive action? The time for complacency is over. The United States, under Trump's leadership, has abdicated its role as a guarantor of global security. It has shown itself to be an unreliable ally, driven by self-interest and beholden to a foreign power. Europe must now chart its own course. It must stand up to Russian aggression, provide unwavering support to Ukraine, and build a new security architecture that does not rely on the whims of an erratic American president. The stakes could not be higher. The future of Europe, and indeed the world, hangs in the balance. The time for action is now. The world is watching. History will judge.